This is going to be a little bit different. I stumbled across this while I was looking for stories, and honestly, I think it's really interesting. We're going to be reading about stalkers, but from the perspective of the stalker. This is a Reddit thread created by a stalker who opened up the floor for people to ask questions and get a better understanding of maybe why they do it. And I want to make a quick disclaimer. I'm not making this video to amplify the voices of stalkers. However, I do think this is interesting, and I think it could be beneficial for us to understand maybe the mindset behind stalking, what their mindset is, what makes them do it, what makes them tick. I think this could be really important for people to see or hear, because I'm the one seeing it and you're hearing it. Hopping into it, this says, I'm a stalker. No, I'm not some edgy teenager who thinks following someone on social media is stalking. I'm a genuine, mentally unwell stalker who has impacted a person, my victim, greatly. Yes, I've been involved with the police due to my stalking problem. I'm on medications and have been put in a ward. If you've ever wanted to ask a stalker anything, feel free. They also put a note that says, I am not a currently active stalker and am already receiving medical attention in case anyone is worried. This thread is just full of questions that people had for them, and they're very open and honest in answering all the questions, and yeah, so we're just gonna hop into this. What would you do if you caught up with your victim? Like, what's your win? Or is it like a neurotic, no end to the means kind of thing? Like, what is your goal? Well, my objective in the end was to make my victim love me because I love them greatly. This would be the ultimate win. I know it seems odd as that would deter anyone and make them hate you, as it did, but stalkers don't think clearly, so yeah, I did have a goal. And then somebody asked, how would they fall in love with you? You don't respect their privacy or space. Furthermore, they know nothing about you to fall in love with you. They said, I was actually friends for a while with the person. Also, stalking mainly stems from mental problems. I can't think straight and I'm quite literally delusional. I understand that most people wouldn't understand. What kind of delusions do you have? It ranges from paranoid to obsessive ones. It's very hard to explain delusions as they're so complex and they feel so real. Sometimes I would think the person I was stalking was a god and I was their worshiper. Love does weird things. What kind of medication would you be prescribed for this, if any? And they just said antipsychotics. They give a couple examples, but I don't know how to say them. It's like Zyprexa, Geodon, etc. I've had bouts of limerence where I'm insanely obsessed with a guy. Do you feel like you have an extreme version of this? This is what it started as for me. I got attached to this person quickly and started spiraling deeper and deeper into obsession. At first, it would start off as a kind of episode of obsession becoming worse and worse over months. I urge you to get help before you end up like me. I'm not saying you're going to, but seek help if you feel like you're losing control. You don't want to end up like me. Especially, you don't want to get in trouble with the police like me. And for those of you who don't know what limerence is, I'm actually gonna look up the definition because I feel like me trying to explain it is not gonna be helpful. It's when you have really strong feelings for someone, but it's less of like a love and it's more of an obsession. An involuntary state of obsessive, intense infatuation with another person, often characterized by intrusive thoughts, idealization of the limerent object, the person you're fixated on, and an intense desire for their feelings to be reciprocated. So from my understanding, it would be almost like you were in love with this person, but the love is coming from a place of infatuation and obsession versus actual feelings. Okay, and then somebody asked, what do you gain from stalking? Money, power, what? For me, stalking makes me feel closer to a person in a messed up sense. I don't do it for money at all. I stalked the person I did because I loved them too much. You just seem to gain a sense of closeness, one that's hard to explain. Even if you know you are psychologically harming the one you love by stalking them, the feeling you have is just so much stronger. And then the same person responded and said, I see. We learn every day. How has stalking affected your life? Do you see yourself behind your peers because of the time spent doing this? My whole life I've never been mentally sound. The first time I saw a psychiatrist was when I was 6 or 7. I think my stalking issues are fueled by my mental problems. The stalking itself takes a toll on me from being hospitalized, legal troubles, etc. Despite this, I found that I haven't fallen behind my peers for the most part. I was actually able to be a stalker and lead a relatively normal life. Somebody said, what is your sex and age? They said, I'm an adult. I won't be answering with my specific age because I don't want someone I know pinning this account to me. I am a woman though. This surprises many as people don't typically see female stalkers and think that they aren't as severe as male stalkers. But let me tell you, I was just as depraved as a human could be, and actually did get in trouble with the police due to this. I ended up institutionalized. Do you feel like you've overcome your stalking tendencies or have gotten better? I can say that I'm better than I was at the peak of my stalking. I still miss the person I was stalking greatly, to the point where sometimes they're all I can think about. It crushes me to know I'm not even permitted to be close to them in any way. I do think I could have urges if I got released from the medical system though. Not sure if I would overcome them or not. I can only say I'm healing a small amount for now. I just want to say really quickly to OP, I think it's amazing that you are able to recognize your issues and you're getting help and you're trying to be better. I just think that that is already so huge. Obviously, it does not justify the things that you've done, but I think I can speak for the majority when I say we all want people to grow and learn and be better. And I think that people who have gone to prison, people who are rehabilitated, I do think people could have a second chance, depending on the crime, obviously. But I think a majority of humans want to believe that people can grow and change and fix these negative behaviors, and I say like negative behaviors for lack of a better word. And I just think being able to recognize the things that you're doing that are wrong, things that are illegal, whatever, being able to recognize the things that you're doing wrong is huge, and that's always the first step. I really hope that you are able to continue receiving help, and I hope that you get better, and I hope that you don't have these tendencies anymore. And mental health can be so tricky. Sorry, I'm going on like a long ass ramble. Mental health can be so tricky, and it's scary. Your brain is a very scary place. And if you're somebody who doesn't suffer from mental illness, let me just say, I am so incredibly jealous of you, because what goes on up here is not fun, and you'll never understand. And dear God, I would never want anyone to have to understand or experience the things that I even experience on such a smaller scale to like OP. But again, it does not justify the pain and the harm that they've already caused. Were you ever violent with your victims and their loved ones? Yes, I would turn hostile occasionally. I hated when they ignored me. I hated when they showed interest in anybody but me. I was violent in a more protective way, if that makes sense. My mind was really, really messed up during that time. Although a lot of the built anger I had, I took it out on myself. And then the same person replied and said, "I'm so sorry, have you been getting treatment? I know you have the meds, but I mean like more therapy." And they said, "Yes, I see my psychiatrist multiple times a week. I'm mandated to. It's helped me improve slightly. I go to the hospital for check-ins every day. It sucks, but due to my problems, it's necessary." What do you get out of it? Who cares what people are doing at any given time? Why not pursue someone who may be interested in you back? It just seems so one-sided, which is ultimately emotionally unfulfilling, no? And they said, "I don't care what the person is doing most of the time, I just want to see them in any way. I became fixated in a way no one will believe, and it's hard to break free or see rationally." Oh my gosh, okay, somebody said I was too, so I'm assuming they were a stalker as well. But only briefly, because I realized how my behavior was weird after I saw her talking to a teacher, scared because of the notes I left on her locker. I immediately stopped and came up with a bullshit reason for the notes and apologized. I then cut off all contact. It wasn't too hard though, because she wasn't the one I wanted. She just looked similar, and the one I did want was in a completely different country. This was years ago though, and I still feel bad about it sometimes. I'm just glad I caught myself early and stopped it before it escalated. I would say my question is, do you ever miss that feeling it gives you? The deep sense of connection, adoration, and vulnerability it can make you feel. It's more than that, but that's the best way I can describe it. If you ever do miss it, how do you cope? And then they actually didn't respond to that one, which I'm kind of sad. I actually think I may have read all of their responses. Oh wait, no. How well did you know the person you were stalking? Friends, acquaintances, a person you saw online, somebody you met once? The person I was stalking was actually a friend of mine for a brief time. The obsession started when I got to know the person even better, spiraling out of control. The person even trusted me enough to touch their hair, shoulders, etc. They then started catching on to my increasingly creepy behavior towards them, finally trying to get rid of me. Because of my stalking problem, I pretty much followed them every day, sending them disturbing letters and things that I'm not going to discuss on here. I was finally in trouble with the law, and now the person who I stalked is not in any contact with me. Are you working? I'm receiving treatment daily from the hospital and have to go to checkups constantly, occasionally being hospitalized if I get bad again. I do wish to work as soon as I'm stable enough to again. I did have a job when the stalking first occurred. Oh my gosh, wait, this is really interesting. Somebody said, if you're comfortable sharing, what was your formal diagnosis after being institutionalized? They said I was formally diagnosed with schizophrenia. Ever since my teens, psychiatrists have suspected I've had some kind of psychotic disorder. I'm on medications now. I have actually learned a lot about schizophrenia recently. I think it's so easy to hear something like schizophrenia and you think about somebody who's hearing voices or seeing things that aren't there, talking to imaginary people. Schizophrenia, I think, is very misunderstood. I still don't even fully understand, and it's almost impossible to unless you experience it or you've studied it for years and years. But I've come to realize lately that a lot of disorders where we think we know them, at least, like we have an understanding, like a surface level understanding. There are so many different variations of schizophrenia, of, I don't even know, like OCD, for example. People think OCD is like, oh, I need to be cleaning and I need to wash my hands. OCD is a million different things, and everyone's OCD manifests in different ways. And just like OCD, schizophrenia can manifest in different ways. So that actually is very, very interesting to read. Okay, moving on. I read all that you wrote, and I hope that you'll reply to my questions and that you'll let me know what you think of my hot take. Hot take, you seem pretty philosophical and smart, and I really appreciate how well you described the mindset that you had when you were in that behavior. I think you explained yourself very well. You say that you love the person too much, even though you knew you were upsetting them. What is your definition of love? Strictly speaking, do you currently think you love them? To me, we never really can fully know another person. We're humans, limited by our senses, limited by our cognitive filters, and we never really see reality 100% clearly, let alone see and know inside of someone. To me, we all walk around with these constructs in our minds about who everyone in our life is. I think most of us are incorrect about a lot of what we think about people, and that we also miss a ton and we don't see much under the hoods of people in our lives. I think only the most observant and curious among us can probably conceive even an 80% correct construct of another person, and likely only after knowing that person for decades. All this to say, when you think about your stalking person, how convinced are you that they even are the person you imagine they are? What do you want to be in your future, honestly? Do you miss stalking and do you plan to do it again? Do you see yourself in a healthy relationship instead? What do you want? That, I think, is probably my favorite question yet. Okay, and they did reply. Thank you. I'll try my very best to answer these questions with detail. For your first question, I do believe my view of love is quite warped. I saw the person I stalked almost as something needed to have forever. I saw them almost as a god in my life. I don't know if that's really what love is to others, but it was to my sick mind. I do think I still love them. To answer the question, I'm genuinely not sure if they're the person I envisioned in my head. I've not been able to see them, for obvious reasons, for a while. I agree with how as humans may never be able to know a person to a full extent. During the time I was stalking, I just wanted to be as close to that person as possible. Always. Just seeing a glimpse of them was enough to make me happy. I just needed to know everything possible. There were points where I would think I knew the person better than their own mother. For the last question, my right mind tells me I need to get better. I need to for the sake of my sanity. Although, it's tough. I go through episodes of wanting to do it all over again when I'm free because I love them. It's hard to explain as my mind is mostly an absolute mess of thoughts and thinking clearly is hard when you're schizophrenic. I do hope in the near future I'm able to live a normal life. I also want to say this. Sorry I'm going on these tangents, whatever. The idea that we will never fully know another person in our life, I was actually having this conversation with my friend the other day because it truly is really scary. Because we as humans, we're so complex, we have so many different thoughts, so many different things. Everyone has a past. And it really is just crazy that you can meet someone and know them for a year, a couple months, a couple weeks, whatever, and you just don't know even a fraction of what they've been through in their life, who they are as a person, all of the thoughts that they have. Like, it's almost impossible for you to ever fully understand or know a person. And we can choose who we want to trust with certain information, or we can choose who we want to be in a relationship with and who we want to be with. And it is really scary because at the end of the day, you're choosing to trust somebody that you might not even know. And I think that that's been shown time and time again with people who end up being completely different than who they set themselves out to be. I mean, I've been in that situation where I've dated somebody and by the end of the relationship, I have no idea who I'm with. Choosing to put your trust in somebody and just having trust is scary. But it's also such a beautiful thing. Like, I have some of the best friends in the world. My sister, for example, my boyfriend too. I choose to put my trust in all of these people, and I think that's a beautiful thing because I trust them with my life. I trust them with very personal information about myself. I can be vulnerable with them, and I trust that they are who they say they are. And I think that's a beautiful thing because also people have to trust that you are who you say you are and that your intentions are good and that you mean the things that you say. And I think that's just really cool. I think it's really interesting. You said you did it because you wanted them to love you. Let's say your stalking had worked and they did fall in love with you. What was your fantasy scenario of what would happen after falling in love? They said, in the end, I just wanted to be with them forever, for them to love me just as much as I love them. That was my ideal scenario, which obviously did not come true at all. Where did you get your ideas from? A lot of it just came from my own mind. My brain would tell me, you can't let them go, follow them. at first. This progressed into more disturbing acts of showing my affection. I almost felt as if another thing was controlling me when I was around them. Okay, and that's actually the end of the thread and all of their replies. There were some questions that people had asked that I think were probably repetitive, so they didn't respond to them, but I think I read, for the most part, all of their responses. Again, I just thought this was really interesting. I think understanding the mindset and understanding, like, I don't know, what provokes them to do what they do, I think it can help people. I think it can be very beneficial. And honestly, understanding that stalking is a mental illness and that, you know, for this specific person at least, they have schizophrenia, I didn't ever put two and two together. Like, I would have never assumed that somebody who identified as a stalker, somebody who has been in legal trouble for stalking, could be diagnosed with a mental illness such as schizophrenia. I honestly have never thought about that. Getting that information alone from this, I think, is just insane. That's all I'm gonna read for now. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm gonna link this Reddit thread in the description, just in case you guys feel like going and commenting, I don't know, maybe asking questions. I don't know if it's still active. It might not be active anymore. Oh no, this is archived, so you can't post new comments, but I still feel like if you guys want to scroll through this and read it for yourself, I just think, honestly, this information is important to have. It's important to understand. I think mental health and mental illness, like I said, is so misunderstood, and again, it does not justify the actions, but I think having a better understanding of why people do the things they do, I think it's really beneficial for everybody, especially those who don't suffer from any sort of mental health. I think it's really important to understand even the basics of like depression and OCD, anxiety, because I feel like those are more common than you think. My boyfriend, for example, doesn't have any sort of mental health issues. He doesn't suffer from anxiety, like nothing, literally nothing. I, on the other hand, have 15 fucking diagnosed mental health issues, and he is always willing to listen and learn and understand to the best of his ability. I think it's almost impossible to understand if you don't experience it for yourself. But I think being open-minded and being willing to learn, to attempt to understand, I think that is beneficial for everybody. I also think everyone should go to therapy, because even if you think you've had the most perfect life, there are things deep down that you have no idea are affecting you. Anyways, that's all I'm gonna read for now. I think I already said that. I have been a ramble machine in this video, so I'm gonna go. Shut the fuck up. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.